Afternoon, guys. I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School, and I'm down here at the Pathfinder Outdoor Classroom again. What I wanted to do is I wanted to talk to you guys today about kit building strategy, and I think that kit building really is kind of one of the whole basis in the survival and bushcraft genre. The outdoor industry is all about kit building, right? I mean, whether it's in your truck, in your boat, in your kayak, on your ATV, on your back, whatever it is, you've got a kit associated with that you carry around with you. And that really is the topic of discussion everywhere on the internet is, what's the best thing to buy? What's the best thing to use for this or for that? What's the newest thing on the market for this or for that? And so what I kind of wanted to do with you today is I kind of wanted to discuss my mentality when it comes to kit building strategy. And I really am not here to discuss brands. Doesn't matter what brand this stuff is, as long as you're buying a good item within that category that's going to do everything you need it to do and be long lasting and durable. Doesn't necessarily have to be X brand or Y brand, okay? So this is not a sales pitch of any kind. This is a thing where I want to talk to you about things you should have in your kit and things to think about when you're building your kit in general. Now, obviously, number one, this is going to be somewhat based on the 10 C's, obviously, because those 10 C's are categories of items. And those categories will work all over the world in any environment, depending on how you set those categories up or what you put inside those categories, okay? We're going to start, obviously, with a backpack. A backpack of some kind or a container for that kit. It may be some kind of a duffel bag or dry bag or something like that, depending on what this kit is meant for. However, I'm going to talk about backpacks in this context because I'm really talking about kits that you can carry over distance on your person. So your backpack is the basis of your kit. It's going to hold everything that you're going to carry. So it needs to be robust. It needs to be bulletproof. It needs to be heavy duty. And that's really enough said on that. Find yourself a good backpack. Again, this is really not about brands or certain price ranges or anything like that. Whatever you find that works for you, that's what you should use. But make sure it's big enough to hold at least 3 days worth of stuff, if not 5. And that includes food, okay? Now, cutting tool selection. Cutting tool selection is really environmentally based, seasonally based, okay? It depends on what you need for the area that you're in. What I would tell you is, I would go ahead and get myself a decent saw, a decent axe, a decent belt knife, and a decent shovel. If you have all 4 of those tools and you have a decent one of every one of those 4, you're going to be able to adapt to most locations. If you are tropical or southern, you might want a machete, okay? Or a forest tool or something like that. Some kind of a large bladed implement that you can chop and hack with, okay? That would be the 5th one in that category that I would say you could buy. But when you buy one, just buy one that's bulletproof. Buy one you don't have to worry about. And I say this a lot, and I'll tell you, people would be very surprised at some of the things that I actually think that I don't often say on video. But I will tell you that, I carry an SAK pocket knife, a Swiss Army knife, 99% of the time, or some type of folding slip joint knife. And I do most of my chores with that. Now, I also carry a belt knife the majority of the time if I'm going to go hunting or if I'm going to be in the woods, because I want that larger blade that I have no worries about batoning for kindling and things like that if I'm not carrying an axe. So what I'll tell you is, on the common man side of things, this is a cold steel Bushman, all right? And this thing is probably 10 or 12 years old. And I can tell you now, you can't hurt it. You can't. I don't know how they are nowadays. I don't know how cold steel's manufacturing process is now compared to what it used to be, okay, when the original guy owned cold steel. But this thing right here is bomb-proof, right? It can be made into a spear. It's got a hollow handle. It's not real comfortable. I've wrapped mine with some hockey tape to make it more comfortable before busting up kindling, for chopping, slashing, anything you want to do that you don't want to do with a pocket knife, you can do with this thing, and you could be fine getting away with it, okay? So you don't have to go out and buy the most expensive belt knife in the world to have a decent belt knife. But get something that's robust, get something that's going to last over time, get something that's going to hold a decent edge. Same thing with your axe, okay? Get an axe that's made from axe steel. Don't buy some cast or drop forged axe. Buy a really good axe made of axe steel, and you won't have anything to worry about. This Council tool axe right here, I've had this one since the very first time I reviewed this axe. When I was the very first person to review this axe when it came onto the market, I've had this particular one ever since then, and it's never let me down. It's absolutely my favorite axe. Again, brand names notwithstanding, okay? Just buy a good axe. Buy a good saw. Buy a good machete, all right? Buy good tools, and you won't have to worry later. But those 5 tools are ones I would say every person should own. Fire starting. The one thing I would say about fire starting is keep it simple, all right? If you look at books from authors of the past, and I don't care who it is, from the late 1800s all the way through the 1950s and 60s, where lists were written in books of things that people were taking camping or traveling, 99% of the time, what you see on there is matches. Matches, matches, matches. And you say, well, that's because they didn't have Ferrocerium rods. Well, that may be true in some cases, okay? They didn't have Bic lighters either, obviously. But the fact of the matter is, they had other ways to start fire at that point in time besides just matches. But they all talk about packing matches. And it's really the only fire starting thing they pack in their kit. But they talk about things off the landscape to supplement that, like fat woods and birch barks and things like that. So what I would say is, keep your ignition devices simple. If you've got some waterproof matches, if you've got yourself a Bic lighter, you've got yourself a decent ferro rod, if you've got some kind of an accelerant-based tinder source, whether that be, Tinder Quick or Mini Inferno or Blackbeard, whatever it is that is accelerant-based fire starting, if you've got that and you've got these 3, you don't need anything else. You really don't, because your fire starting skills shouldn't be that poor that you've got to have 15 different ways to start fire. You should have a few ignition methods. 3 is enough in my opinion. And if you've got a magnifying glass on your compass, then you've got a 4th one. And if you've got a good hard steel saw or knife that you can use for flint and steel, then you've got a 5th one, right? So you've got plenty of ways to start fire without building a giant fire kit. I think fire kits are overrated and overdone on the internet, to be honest with you. I really do. And that's just speaking from years of experience. And I've done plenty of videos on fire kits that were pretty good size. And I'll tell you now, looking back on that, I'm like, why? How many times have I ever needed anything more than one of these 3 items to start a fire? And some accelerant? Almost never, okay? Keep it simple. Sleep systems, okay? Whatever sleep system you choose and whatever brands you choose to buy, just make sure of 3 things. Number 1, you have something to sleep in, on, and under. Those are the 3, all right? Make sure you have something to sleep inside of, something to sleep on top of, and something to sleep underneath of to keep the weather and the rain off of you. And if you choose a hammock, make sure you've got the hammock and an overquilt, underquilt combination with a good tarp that will cover the entire hammock. Make sure that they're fairly robust, that you're not going to tear them up, and that they are conducive to the weather that you plan to operate in. So if you're buying a sleeping bag, make sure it's rated for at least 10 degrees colder than you plan it to be, all right? Because most of those sleeping bags are rated with clothing on inside them, and a lot of them are rated at the bare minimum. And if you sleep cold at all, you're going to have a problem. So if you get a 40-degree bag and it's 45 degrees outside, you're not wearing good clothes in that bag, you may get cold if you're a cold sleeper. So you should probably get a 30-degree bag or a 20-degree bag for that kind of temperature, okay? So remember that when you're buying your equipment. Water procurement, okay? Water procurement off the landscape means that you're not only gonna have to collect it, you're also gonna have to filter it most likely. There's lots of different things on the market today, from very expensive to not so expensive for all of these tasks. What I would tell you is this. I would tell you to pay attention to the area that you're gonna operate in and see what the dangers are in that water so that you can select the proper filtration method. And then have something that's wide-mouthed or has a wide opening for collecting water off the landscape, and make sure that you have something that you can hold bulk water in to carry away so that you can disinfect water in camp if you need to. And for me, I'm not trying to throw brands out there, okay? I'm showing you something I've had for a long, long time that works well for me, okay? This is a 6-liter water bladder, basically, by Mountain Safety Research. It's got 2 different size openings on it, plus a nipple opening. You can put 6 liters of water in this thing. It's heavy duty material. You're never gonna tear it up. It's got a wide mouth for collection. And then you can plug whatever filter system you want into that, because all of them will fit it depending on the connection that you have. And then you can filter water from that 6 liters into your water bottle, into your canteen. And so when you buy a bottle, speaking of water collection, right, make sure that you have something that's got a wide mouth in case you have to collect in that. And then make sure it's something that you can put into the fire. Make sure it's a good stainless steel or heavy wall titanium bottle that you can put into the fire and you don't have to worry about it, okay? That's what you want. We'll talk about other cook gear in a minute. That's just water bottles, water collection, okay? And then buy the proper filtration method for your area. You know, that could be a Grail, that could be a Sawyer, it could be any number of brands and names. It just depends on what works well for you and what's going to take out of the water what you need it to take out. So do that research before you buy. Keep cooking simple. That's the next one on the list, okay? And what I mean by that is, if you're just going to put this stuff into a pack and you're going to use it for a day or 2 or 3 days, and you're not going on a family camping trip or with a bunch of your buddies, we're gonna have to cook gourmet food. Keep it as simple as possible. You have a water bottle and cup, or you have a canteen and cup. Maybe you need 1 pot of some sort, size dictated by how much you're going to cook, and maybe you want a skillet. Other than that, you don't need a whole lot of peripheral cook gear to get the job done quickly. And then you can add pieces to that you want to for car camping, for boating, for things like that, for recreation where you have conveyance to carry that stuff. But as far as in a backpack goes, you know, if you've got a canteen and a cup, then you have a water bottle and you have something that you can cook in like a pot. And if you get a skillet, then you have a skillet you can cook in. So you have a skillet, a pot, and a water bottle. And you could do the same thing if you had a water bottle and cup and maybe a bush pot and a skillet. You could do the same thing there. And again, brands notwithstanding, just get stuff that's heavy duty, get stuff that you can use, and get stuff that will nest if you can find it, so that if you're gonna carry multiple containers, at least they nest with each other well, don't take up a lot of room in your pack, okay? And now when it comes to cooking, a lot of times in the US, we are relegated to not having fires, depending on the season, depending on the location. So camp stoves can be an important part of your kit. And what I would tell you is, just get a camp stove that you trust. Don't get one that you're gonna take it out and 2 days later it's not going to work. Get a good brand of camp stove that's got good reviews, that a lot of people have used, that's shown itself to be worthy over time, and you'll have a good system on your hands, okay? It's up to you whether you decide it's gonna be butane, propane, or multi-fuel. That's kind of up to you, your location, your weather, your elevation, all those type things come into play with that. But I like simple isobutane canister stoves. Those work best for me. I kind of like the ones that stand up with the stove on top of the canister, but I also really like ones that don't connect the can to the canister, because I like to be able to get that canister away so I can put a nice tight ring around that thing, a windscreen around it. I don't have to worry about overheating the can, okay? There's something to be said for all of those things. Now, Cordage Management. Cordage Management is one of those things I think sometimes we carry way more than we need. I've got a video on a cordage management system here on my channel, and it basically breaks your cordage down so that you have just what you need and not a whole lot more. You should have some type of expendable cordage, and you should have some cordage that's cut to lengths already that are usable, that's non-expendable, that you're gonna use over and over again, and use recoverable knots in that cordage. And then you should probably have some kind of cordage that will take body weight if you can get it, okay? In case you have to improvise something that's going to suspend your body weight, you need some cordage that will do that as well within your kit. Some type of rope or webbing is always going to be best, okay? Hygiene. Hygiene's always gonna be something you need to think about when you're building your kit out, all right? The level of hygiene is really up to you, you know, but at least, you know, something like a toothbrush and some kind of biodegradable wipes, things like that are always good to have with you. You can get portable showers and things like that are backpackable very easily, that you can hang up in trees. You can do all of that stuff if you want to, but keep your hygiene stuff pretty simple too, so that it fits into a very small package. It doesn't take up a lot of room, because other than brushing your teeth, there's not a whole lot of things you're gonna need to do in just a couple of days camping anyway. So your kit doesn't have to be elaborate, right? The 10th item on this kit is light and navigation. I kind of lump those together because it really doesn't take a lot to do either one, okay? A simple headlight will do. Just make sure it's a good quality one that's rechargeable if possible, or you've got spare batteries. And navigation, make sure you've got a good compass and a map of the area that you plan to recreate in, and you should be good to go on that. So that's a very simplistic part of your kit that doesn't take up very much room at all. And then off to the side here in parentheses, I've got repair and maintenance, okay? And those things are kind of up to you to decide how much you think you need. To me, really, I carry a roll of 1-inch duct tape in my kit, and I've got different kinds of cordage. So I've got lots of ways to repair things, but generally what I carry with me in a maintenance type kit would be some type of a small sharpening stone to maintain edges. I carry a few different O-rings and things like that for stoves. I carry some tenacious tape in there for mending a poncho or a Dyneema tarp or something like that, and a couple safety pins. And that's generally enough for me. With 1 or 2 sail needles, I can get most jobs done with that stuff with what I've got in my kit. Something like a small Altoids tin is enough to put a complete repair and maintenance kit in very, very easily. All right, so I'm just gonna pick up a couple things off this table real quick and show them to you. And this is the majority of the stuff that was in my pack other than my sleep system, because it is basically a hammock, overquilt, underquilt tarp. Pretty simplistic, you've seen it in videos past. But this is the kit that I had in this backpack for a recent overnight trip. And I'm gonna show you what I had, just so you can kind of be like, okay, that was that category, that was that category. Again, brand not specific here, okay? I had an SAK. I had a piece of utility cordage for hanging my pack. I had 3 fire starting implements, ferro rod, lighter matches. I had a compass, a tourniquet in my pocket, a frog gig, duct tape, cold steel Bushman, canteen and cup, rope, cold steel shovel, silky saw, electronics pouch with spare battery and headlight, camp stove, food bag, water procurement. That's pretty much it. Everything else that was in my pack is sleep related. Again, you know, I have a hammock in there, I have a tarp in there, I have an underquilt in there, I have an overquilt in there. Other than what I just picked up off this table, there's nothing left in my pack. It's all right here. So it's pretty simplistic, but it doesn't have to be complicated. That's the point. Don't overcomplicate your kit. Keep it simple, but keep it robust, keep it versatile, and make sure that the things you have are going to last the test of time. I appreciate your views. I appreciate your support. I thank you for everything you do for our school, for our family, and for our business, for all of our sponsors, instructors, affiliates, and friends. And I'll be back with another video, guys, as soon as I can. Thanks.